welcome to today's episode of Silk and Soil. I am so grateful and happy that you are here joining me today. Now, before we start off, just making sure that you maybe have your favorite beverage to hand. I currently sit here with a cup of tea, herbal tea. I was going to make a cacao, but then something drew me to the tea, which usually is a sign that I will be talking a lot. So, and I won't have much of my drink. And this is, I guess, where we start off today. In like this past few days, especially, have been very much a lot for me. I've uncovered a load of things that have really taken me to my own depth, which I never thought was possible as such. And there is a lot of changes going on at the moment. Like, my life essentially kept trying to catch up with where my soul is. So this is pretty much the conversation that we are having today, and it is a conversation. And it all started off this week when my shamanic healer, we were talking about our gifts, our lineage, where we're coming from, who we are. And she suggested, because I had no idea where to really start, and she suggested just to start by looking at where you come from, the area, because I'm from Germany. So I'm not even from this land where I'm living at the moment. I am originally from Germany, so that's where I was born and spent still most of my life there. It's getting close to being here most of my life, but yeah. So when I was having my call with her, I mentioned the forest, and then after the call I realized that's not actually the forest that it was. So I started to really have a look at the geography of things, and found the forest I was actually talking about. That, combined with where I was born, it really started to honestly, I just didn't know, my mind was completely blown away, essentially. So essentially, I was born in one of the most ancient cities in all of Northern Europe. Now, I've always felt there is this ancient knowledge within me, and I've not really had the explanation. If you've been here for a while, then you probably know that my brain is sort of trying to understand a lot and needs to almost justify things. They're really very much two parts of me. It's more the, I guess, feminine flow, spiritual part, and then I'm more the masculine, more the practical side of things. And the practical side of things, really try to understand where this ancient knowledge and this ancient just being there was something ancient inside of me, where that was coming from. And it wasn't until I really looked into my birthplace that it started to actually click. It was it's one of the most ancient cities in all of Northern Europe. Letting that sink in, I guess for me, the magnitude of that. So this city was established by the Celts, who called it originally. Let me just try to read this out, because I can't. Let's face it, I can't remember that. It was called Borbetomagus, which means a settlement in a watery area. Now, when I was in doing my shamanic journey with the healer, like I heard a lot of water, like drip, like raindrops, like flowing water in the stream. No idea where that came from. Like reading all of this, going like really looking into all of this, it started to make sense. It was like one of the, like water is essentially one of my sort of gifts of my lineage. And where we were just talking about this month all about like the gifts, the lineage, it makes absolutely sense now looking back. And it's really like how old like this place was where I was born. It like, as you can tell, it's still absolutely like blows my mind. Now this city that I was born in, when it was a Celtic forest, it then later grew into like a Roman town, and like layer upon layer, it was like really like sacred energy that was there. And it's so funny because like I didn't know, because I was in quotation only born there. I was living at like a town a little bit away from there, and that town is at the edge of that forest. And it's again like the forest. I feel very much at home in the forest, and it's like it's really the place, and like all of the places like those where I was born, where I was living when I was a young kid, like all of these places are places where the veil between worlds has been really, really thin for millennia. So me having like these like gifts of seeing, of knowing, of all of the gifts that I've like, I guess, developed over the years really started to make sense. Like all of everything I questioned myself for years. Like, is this even real? Like, why can I not put this in words? And it is starting to make sense now. Like literally a week after my 43rd birthday, it's just starting to all come together really for me. And within like that forest, that area, the city that I was born in, like the like oldest, well, maybe not like the oldest, but there is a older healing tradition called Braucherei, and that was first recorded over there. And people, especially women, who have done this Braucherei, which is like, it's just like, as I said, it's a healing tradition, they were often classed as witches. So I'm pretty sure I've talked about this on my podcast. I'll have a look. If not, I'll actually record a separate one for this. But I'm pretty sure I've talked about when my memories about being a witch with my daughter, like running away from persecution. That's a very short story. And all of that is part of like this tradition and the magic, my lineage. And it's hitting home so much, because me starting to understand my roots of the lineage and I guess the stories and where I really came from, it's like really, it's bringing me home in like a very different way. I felt like really anchored before, but like that was almost like a huge missing piece, because it is huge. It's something that it seems so obvious now, obviously, but like looking back, it's not something that I've really like looked into, like I've always like almost like looked forward, but not really back to where I was truly coming from. Because as I said to like my healer, it's like my granddad, he looked into where like our family comes from, like the family name, all of that. So I know parts of that, whatever I remember. But that's not what it was about for me, really. That's not what I needed to know. I really needed to know, like, where my roots were, where it was that, where I was coming from, and where my memories, because I have got a lot of memories which are not my own memories. And that in itself, that is one of the gifts. And I know now I understand that those are the memories of that's been passed down to me within my lineage from all of the other women. And it's been such a joy, really, just to get lost into all of these things, and like all of like these little threads. And I can only like really highly recommend you start looking into like your own like lineage history, like, and see where it takes you, because there's no right or wrong. There, in my world, there never is anyway. Because once I started to look at that, it was then like some of the grim stories came up that are quite appropriate, like to my story, to my lineage, essentially. Which then led into like Little Red Riding Hood, which is like there's an oral French version of that. So I sort of went on to like a French, like almost tangent, because I like France. I've been to Paris many times. We are going on a road trip to France this summer. And I was just like starting to like investigate if there is a like link between like where I came from with France. And lo and behold, I guess if you think about it, unsurprisingly, there is. To me, it was just, again, just absolutely like, what on earth is like, really? Because where I was born, the people from there, they migrated to become the founders of Burgundy in France. So that is like one of the things. And like there is like a very strong like link to the Cathars of the south of France. And as soon as I read that, like something inside of me like went just like, what? Because we are driving to the south of France. So I started to like really go into that, and it's funny because the Cathars, like the south of France, where the area that we are going to is literally Cathar country, and there is a place that has like a huge significance, and I know I'm gonna like do a whole separate podcast around that once we've been there. But it's like women like were like really honored there, and like the landscape of like just that area, just that whole area, really holds the memory of what was destroyed with the Cathars. And it's like the more I looked into all of these things, the more like links there were, and the more it just like almost like my world fell apart but came together at the same time. And like I want to say, like almost unsurprisingly, like my daughter's name's Sophia, and Sophia is the daughter name for the Cathar feminine divine. And it's like, it's honestly like looking at everything that I've found out, like so much more, and I'm not going to go into like every single detail, but it makes so much sense. Like my life until now, where I've been moving around, I've been like switching countries, I've been living in different places, it never made sense to me. It almost felt like a little bit like wishy-washy, that I couldn't like almost settle down, and that was almost, I was pulled, and I was like following that pull without being able to really understand it. And then it like turns out where we are now, where we bought our house, again, I guess almost unsurprisingly, like literally 2 minutes from where we live, there is a road with an absolute ancient well in it, where some of the myths and the stories where I come from back in Germany, they're being, I don't want to say replicated here, but they're being still, those traditions are still being done on that well. And I'm just like, I didn't even know this was there. And like, this is the thing, I guess. This has been such like a fun, almost like little exploration for me, because it's given me like so much root. I understand my whole life like a lot better. Like I understand my lineage, the gifts that have been passed down to me, like the memories that I have that make absolutely no sense, but they live within my body. And there are some memories that I've had since my daughter was like literally 6 months old. It was something, obviously because she was so little, something like happened in like my lineage, like that's very specific. And just the fact that I have that memory of it, I know that I'm here to heal it. And it's the fact that I have these memories to begin with, because also like looking into all of these things, like me having memories from my lineage, that is like really part of like one of my gifts. Whereas for me it's just like, oh yeah, that's just normal. Apparently it's really not, and it's really rare to have that the way that I have it. And I'm just like, okay. So, and it's just like almost like a wake-up call. It's just like where I just constantly think like things that's just the way it is, because yes, it is for me, but that doesn't mean that like it is normal for other people. And it's just like a lot of this was like a really, really good reminder as well. And it's just really, yeah, it's, if you are like feeling like there's part of you missing, because it probably is, start having a look like where you come from and go on the tangent. Go like follow that thread that comes up, because there is a reason why that thread comes up. This is why I keep saying, like, it's not really surprising that I found like this connection to here, or even the connection to my daughter's name, to my lineage. And there's so many like things that are happening, and it's like, I think the one of the like biggest things out of all of this for me, like, is, apart from like being so much more rooted in myself, is that like when everyone talks about like what's your magic, what's your gift, and I've always been trying to like say, oh, I'm a womb healer, I'm an energy healer, I'm whatever it is, right? But nothing ever feeling quite right. It's because I am like doing like Braucherei, like I'm doing that like really old like healing methodology, I guess. It's not even a methodology, but like that strand of it. And it's like, it simply means like to use what is given, like what runs in the body, what the lineage left behind. And it's just about like really helping other women to come back to themselves, like below, like beneath the performance, like beneath like all of the like conditioning, like the expectations, all of the masks that we as women put on. And like this is like really what it is. Like when I looked into Braucherei, it's like they work with the womb, the body, ancestral threats, like the invisible, the energy, and just use what has been given. And like it couldn't have been like a better explanation to what I do, like really, because where like everything and everyone constantly says like you need to be clear what you do, when you can't really put it into words because there are no words that you know, like that you know of, and then all of a sudden you have this like, oh, it's Braucherei. It's just like, yes, that makes like perfect sense, and it feels like absolutely like incredible. Like there's so much excitement in me, and it's like looking at my lineage, there's it's called a vulva, and like it's like, again, like a gift passed down through the lineage, and it's like a vulva is essentially a seeress, a threat holder, like a woman who carries memory across lives and also helps others remember what they forgot they knew. And that's exactly what I do. And I'm just like, oh my god, all of a sudden I have all of these words, like what it is that I do, that like that encompasses it. And as you can tell, I'm just going on like I'm jumping around a little bit because I just get like, that's just what I do. And it's like finally finding the words to express what it is that I do, and to like, I always knew there was depth in the work that I do, and just depth just generally in everything that I do, but it never felt like I could access it always felt like there was something almost holding it back, or something like in between, like a glass sheet. And that seems to have been pulled now, because I'm just like, I literally look at my like Instagram content, for example, I'm just like, oh my god, this is so surface level for what is like flowing through me at the moment. And I know this sounds all very like wishy-washy, and like, what the heck is she on? And potentially like a little bit too spiritual for some of you, but I can guarantee you it's not spiritual at all. It's like I'm so much more anchored in my body. And I thought I was anchored into my body before because I was able to listen to it and everything. But with having like that, pulled out that sheet of glass now, it's like, it's a whole new level. And it's so much so that like, I feel like my whole business, I'm just completely almost like burning it down and building it back up from the ground. I've made a decision yesterday was going to say, by the time this actually records, this has actually been announced. I decided yesterday to retire my group container, which is, we were just in the middle of it. And I've like cancelled payments, refunded money. I'm just like, it doesn't feel aligned anymore. And I know aligned is like a big word these days. It's like a big nothing word. But like part of me has got like so much more depth. Like the way that I see the container now to when I originally sort of created it and sold it are two different containers. And for me, when I was feeling into it in my body yesterday, it didn't feel in integrity with myself to keep this container going. And it's never an easy decision to do that. And there is like go into my Instagram, there is a whole post about this. By the time this is out, it will be there. And it's like, I go into more of the reasons as to why, but like really making this decision from my body. And like, there's so many things, like once I've like essentially closed that container. And it's funny because yesterday, before I even closed the container, I was working on the next ceremony. So it's not like I wasn't doing anything. I was physically working on it. And it's like, once I closed that, like I got like this like really exciting feeling inside of me of like something new coming through, and that I'm just working through like a one on like a private container, which I'm like really, really excited about. But also at the same time, like that group container, I know that this isn't dead as such. There is a version of it that's being like brought through me, and it's gonna be like nothing like anyone has ever experienced or seen. It's not going to be done like that before. And I like the depth of this container, that the container wants to be, was just so different to what I sold my clients, and I couldn't change it just like halfway through because the difference would have been like too big. So I made the like very hard decision to just stop it and just to call it a day essentially. And it's and sometimes we just have to do that. Sometimes that's when and I know, and I go into that more in the actual post. I've already written the post, so that's why I know. It wasn't an easy decision for me because I'm just like, oh, what like people will think I'm not professional, they think I'm not trustworthy, I'm just going to cancel everything halfway through. And that's just not the case. But I also had to trust my body. My body was saying this container is not the way that you want it to be. And you can't just do a 180 change in the middle of a container. But you also can't do another 4 months of something that doesn't feel in integrity with who you are. And there's just like so many shifts going on at the moment that I really feel like above the ground everything is being knocked down, and like the foundations like being like really built like really deep into the ground. And it's been a ride, just to say the least. And it's gonna be a ride for some time. And yeah, I mean, as I said, like at the beginning, I was listening to what was coming through, that the not to have the cacao because I've just gonna be talking, because that's what I've literally been doing. I've like not even had half of my tea within like nearly half an hour of like talking. But I think this was today's like episode is more about really just going into all of the things that are going on at the moment, and just giving you a glimpse, I guess, because these episodes, God, I can't talk apparently. These episodes are very much all about me sharing my stories, because that is part of my gift as well. I know that, and I've been saying this so many times when, like, you know, when we just come together, share stories, there's so much wisdom in it, and so much wisdom that that our mind doesn't necessarily understand, but something inside of you, like your soul knows, like your inner knowing, that it all knows. And this is why, like me, I love sharing stories, and I know that this is part of my gift, because it will unlock something in you. And like, as I said, like earlier on in this episode, like there's so many things that to me, that just like normal, and to other people it's just like, whoa, like this is not normal, Jen. And this was like, the more stories I share, the more wisdom I know I can impart, and the more activation and like homecoming and like help I can give other women. And that is, for me, this is what it's like really about, helping you like really get rooted in yourself, and really get grounded, and like really come home to yourself. And there are so many things that I really want to say today, but I think for the moment I'm just gonna leave it here. 30 minutes of me talking is probably a lot, so thank you so much for tuning in today, and I will speak to you next week. Bye.